Again, welcome to APH's Access Academy. Today, we begin a two-part series called Career Technical Education. It's not just Woodshop, featuring Florida's very own dually certified educator, Eddie Ryan. We're here today and then again next week to help reframe thinking, to shift our mindset away from traditional vocational classes that we might think of, and discover how to actively engage our students with visual impairments in engaging in career-specific skills and positive work outcomes. So our objectives today, well, traditional vocational classes, in my mind, meant educating and training students for work. This meant things like homemaking education and specific labor market preparation, and all of it in order to enter an occupational field of work. And if you're old like me, your mind may think of the trade industry like construction and mechanics. Part one of this series today, we'll spend time laying a foundation to ensure that we understand all the terminology and the meaning. And when we identify the standards and career clusters, it will hopefully help lead to naturally dispelling the myths about career technical education. Some of those myths are that career education is a modern version of vocational tech ed. Another myth, career education is not necessary for college-bound students. These jobs will pay less than jobs requiring a 4-year degree. So these are things that we help to dispel in the webinar today. Now, what will come in our session next week is we will look at continuing to learn by describing strategies that are actively engage our VI students in CTE classes. And we're going to examine those student-specific experiences through a really unique panel featuring 2 students with visual impairments who successfully completed their coursework. But now I am pleased to pass things over to our very knowledgeable presenter.
Hi, thank you so much for the generous introduction, Amy. My name is Eddie Ryan, officially Edwidge Ryan, but I go by Eddie. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you. So let me go ahead and start my presentation. As Amy mentioned, the title of this presentation is Career Technical Education. It's not just Woodshop. And obviously that title was chosen because there are a few things to learn about CTE education that I myself was not familiar with. Why I wasn't familiar with that is because for the last 20 years, I had been a teacher for the visually impaired here in the state of Florida. I'm a graduate 2 times over from Florida State University. I initially went to school via TBI, and then 10 years later went back and got my comms. And I have worked for several school boards. I worked for the VA. I contract with Lighthouse of Broward. And currently I am working as a disability advisor and a advisor for the culinary arts program at one of the career technical colleges in Broward County, Florida, which happens to be Fort Lauderdale for those of you who are not familiar with the area. So that is where I am located at McFadder Technical Education College. We are known as a college, a tech college. So about myself, you guys know that my background is strongly focused in VI, and I really started to gravitate towards the CTE side of it once I had a few students go through it as I was their TBI. So I gained a lot of invaluable knowledge and insight that I feel that I would have otherwise not gotten had I not been on the TBI side. And now being on the CTE side with the TBI background, there's just so many opportunities there that I was just kind of blown away that I didn't recognize this sooner. So
If you'll just bear with us for a moment, she froze for a bit in her description of talking about introducing her. What I will do while we wait for Eddie to be able to come back and rejoin us, she was getting ready to give you an opportunity to take another poll. Wanted to know a little bit more about you. So I'm going to go ahead and launch that poll. If you'll bear with me for just a moment. And what we would like to know is, what population of students do you work with? Are you with elementary students, middle school, high school? Maybe you work with rehabilitation clients, but there's always a chance that maybe you're not working with students right now. And I apologize, I just noticed a typo in one of those choices. So we want to know who you work with, and also, do you have experience working personally or professionally with career technical education? So this just gives you an opportunity for a moment to tell us a little bit about who you serve and if you've had an opportunity of working with CTE. So what I will do is I'm going to go ahead and end the polling. We're at 53%. I'll share out. And so Eddie is back with us live. And what we find is that we have a real mixture today.
Okay.
So we have, it looks like high school, 33% of our audience is serving high school students, 26% serving elementary, some middle school students. Welcome to all of our participants that are serving rehabilitation clients. And with the question of, do you have experience with CTE? 56% said no, and 44% said yes. So hopefully that helps to know a little bit more about our audience.
That's awesome. I'm glad to see that we do have so many high school teachers on, and middle school teachers as well, which is awesome. Of course, elementary school, never can be too early starting that goal setting for your students. So that's good to know. And I was pleasantly surprised with how many people have experience with CTE. Okie dokie. So let's go ahead and check out this next video. Let's look at, what is CTE? What does it look like? Is it what you had in mind? Is it what you've experienced? So I'm going to share a video with you that kind of gives you a very nice picture of what CTE is.
Florida's emphasis on career and technical education, or CTE, sets Florida apart. We have a goal to become #1 in workforce education by 2030. And we have a plan to get there.
For those who are like goal-oriented or want to get right to the meat of the program, CTE programs are great for that because they focus directly on what you're interested in.
I can go into a career in a year and make as much, and sometimes if not more, than somebody who goes 2 to 4 years.
In a year and a half, you can be out of the school and into a full-time job.
I felt that if I could learn how to do it with my hands, that's something I'd always have with me.
Both our college system institutions and our technical colleges offer those programs that we have said are so very essential to economic upward mobility for families and individuals, and they're so vital for the economies in the local regions in the state.
Whether you're thinking about IT or healthcare, law enforcement, manufacturing, the list goes on. CTE is the engine for what makes up our community and nation.
There's just no way you could ever come through a program like this and go, I can't find anything to do.
This program gave me opportunities that I never would have dreamed.
CTE has changed my life in a way that it showed me that no matter what profession, you're gonna have to continue learning.
Go to your local college, sign up, enroll now. There is a program there for you to really help you and your family upskill, become upwardly mobile, and then achieve your American dream.
We want to uplift lives. All residents need to get there faster, they need to get there more affordably, and they need to get there in a high quality, high value career and technical education program a program that is aligned to a market demand or a business or a career opportunity that can be completely transformative.
Okay, I saw in the chat, Leanne mentioned that her son had that aviation teacher. That's pretty cool. So let me go back and share my PowerPoint with you. All right, awesome. So as we could see, there were several different careers that students could choose from. So CTE education is today's cutting edge, rigorous, and relevant career and technical education that prepares youth and adults with a wide range of high wage, high skill, high demand careers. I'll hone in on that in a little bit. Students get to practice hands-on learning. I know everybody that's a TBI is thinking like, that's awesome. And application earning certifications or credentials in high-paying industries. So what does that all mean in just plain language? The whole mission and purpose of CTE is to incorporate not only the student who's a learner, but the community. What are the careers needed in that area and what type of jobs are in demand, and the stakeholders, the employers that need skilled labor in order to come in and fill that need. With COVID, we've had a lot of different types of careers that might need students to go into immediately. For example, our sister school is doing some rapid credentialing programs that take 6 weeks for people that are in industry that want to do networking and some cybersecurity because of all of the breaches that have been happening. And they can complete that training in just 6 weeks and sit for that certification exam. So not only is that student earning a certification that's going to make them more knowledgeable and more prepared to meet the employer's needs, but they're also going to be able to command the earning and the wage that they actually deserve. So overall, it's a whole collaborative process between the schools, the student, the community, the stakeholders, and other agencies. The difference that I would like to also note about career technical education versus traditional college, 2-year college, or 4-year college is that we don't work on credit hours. So a typical psychology class, for example, at a university or a 2-year college would give you about 3.
And just bear with us for a moment. I know that her connectivity is not the best today, but we are doing what we are able. So hang tight. She was discussing about the hands-on practice and giving that comparison to us of how hours go with the CTE. And I'm going to see too for a moment where things are at in so she's going to pop off for a moment. There she is. Go ahead.
I'm so sorry.
No worries. It happens.
This is the time. All right, here we go. All right, so I'm sorry, I'm not sure where I left off. Amy, where I got cut off?
You just were finishing about the difference in hours, the comparing of like a psychology class with, and that's where we lost.
Perfect. All right. So with a psychology class in a traditional college, you would have 2 credits or 3 credit hours, depending on how long the course is. For career technical education, it's clock hours. So literally the student has to meet the number of hours predetermined by the state for that program. For example, in the state of Florida, the professional hospitality program is a 1,200-hour course. So your culinary course will be 1,200 hours. So that student needs to meet those hours in order to earn that CTE certificate. We don't give diplomas in career technical education, we give certificates. And the other thing that is a nice benefit is there is a lot of reciprocity with different programs between the 2-year college and the 4-year university. So if you're in a program that has reciprocity, you could finish your hands-on training in CTE and get your experience that way. transfer over to a two-year college where you might have up to 31 credit hours already earned on your program. And then if you'd like to continue further on, you could take that over to a four-year university where you can earn your bachelor's in that area of study. Not only is this, I think, a very unique and kind of creative way to think of it, the student is having the hands-on training with that profession or that career they're interested in before they're getting into the bookwork. So it's in reverse, which might actually make the student decide, this is not the trade for me, or this is not the career for me. Maybe I want to do something else before they go into the loans and the expenses and everything else that goes into going to a four-year university. So you have more time to really get your hands into that field of interest. Another beautiful thing with career technical education is that we don't offer loans. It's all through grant money. So our students come out graduating without any debt to the school, which is a really, really great place to be when you're starting out. So there are several areas of CTE education. The 16 areas of CTE education and 79 career pathways are the ones that I'm going to discuss in the preceding slides. It varies from state to state. Again, it is community-based, it's state-based, so what might be relevant in the Northwest may not be relevant in the Southeast. For example, I would doubt that you guys that might be in the center of the country would have a program for marine backboarding, which we do down here in South Florida, because we have a very large and vibrant marine life and marine technology going on here in South Florida. So those programs are very specific to the area down here in South Florida. So your state might have something that would not necessarily be found in another state. Some of the areas of study are agricultural, food and natural resources, architecture and construction, arts, AV, technology and communications, business management and administration, education and training, finance, government and public administration, health science, hospitality and tourism, human services, information technology, law, public safety, corrections and security, manufacturing, marketing, science, technology, engineering and mathematics, transportation, distribution, and logistics. So as an example, I know Leanne has posted it in the chat where you can click on the main website to access where these different courses are, but I'm going to just pick information and technology as one of the fields that you might be interested in. And you will get a whole host of information on information technology. What are the common career technical core that needs to be performed within this field? So you could look at this with your student and you guys could have a discussion and talk about, do you have the necessary technology skills in order to take this course? What are the types of jobs that you can have? What are the frameworks like? What type of skills would somebody need for this occupation? So it gives all the different pathways under information technology that you can go into, whether you're doing network system pathway, if you're doing web and digital communication, programming and software, there's several different areas. You would just need to cross-check and cross-reference if your career technical college does offer these programs. So this is a really nice lesson that you could do with your students. You might even be able to develop some IEP goals. So I think it's a really good place to start, just to kind of get your student and yourself thinking about what kind of things you possibly might want to look into as future careers. So the next slide I would like to discuss is the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, WIOA. And this Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act, WIOA, was signed into law on July 22nd, 2014. The WIOA is designed to help job seekers access employment, education, training, and support services to succeed in the labor market and to match employers with the skilled workers they need to compete in the global economy. Congress passed this act by a wide bipartisan majority. It is the first legislative reform of the public workforce system in 15 years. So this is really a big, huge deal. As we know, the world has been changing, especially when it comes to employment. If we are staying competitive and actually looking at what the need is in the community and actually preparing students to be part of that labor market with those necessary skills, it makes for a very strong economy within local markets. So this is why I think it offered itself to being passed by a bipartisan majority, because everybody would like to see communities be sustainable on their own. And by being sustainable on their own, they have to prepare their citizens or their constituents in that area to work the jobs in that community effectively and with the best possible skills and knowledge that they can obtain. WIOA brings together in strategic coordination the core program federal investments in skill development, employment and training services for adults, dislocated workers, and youth, and the Wagner-Pizer Employment Service administered by the U.S. Department of Labor, DOL, through formula grants to states, adult education and family literacy programs, as well as state vocational rehabilitation service programs that assist eligible individuals with disabilities in obtaining employment. These programs are administered by the U.S. Department of Education. So these are the programs that the U.S. government really wants to focus on, because there's a large swath of people that may not be able to obtain the skills to be in a competitive work situation. By getting training at a career technical college, they're able to get those skills that they would need to be competitive workers. So if you think about adults that may not be served as much or underserved, think about our population, those with disabilities, maybe those that are in lower income situations. These are the type of people that really benefit from these programs, because there's the funding to assist them, and there's a lot of different community and state agencies to assist them to get into the program, as well as to successfully complete and find job placement if that's what they desire. The next thing I would like to go over is the Career and Technical Education for the 21st Century Perkins 5. On July 31st, 2018, President Trump signed the Strengthening Career and Technical Education for the 21st Century Act, Perkins 5. This is not to be confused with Perkins School for the Blind. This is Perkins, Pell Money. So this is a whole different set of legislation that deals with funding and resources for higher education and career technical education. This law reauthorizes and updates the Carl D. Perkins Career and Technical Education Act of 2006 to ensure career and technical education CTE programs meet the demands of the 21st century economy. So just to piggyback on what Amy was saying when she first opened the presentation, a lot of the old school or outdated woodshop or some of the less skilled trades, a lot of those programs have been phased out because those are not what are needed within the community. Some of the things have stayed, of course, like automotive, because you will always need a mechanic to repair your car. But a lot of the ones that are not relevant or productive to the community, those have been phased out. So CTE education is all about relevance. It's all about strengthening that community, that employees' knowledge and understanding to access meaningful employment. Perkins 5 includes specific support for unique demographic groups, referred to in the law as special populations, intended for recruiting and retaining these groups in high-quality career and technical education programs and improving their overall academic performance. Vocational rehab is a huge organization that I work with, or agency I work with, in order to get students settled into career technical education courses. They also assist students with some career surveys and skill assessments to see if that's the right fit. As a teacher for the visually impaired or a transition specialist, I'm sure you guys are constantly working on what skills your students might need, what skills your students have, and what skills you might need to probably enhance. So they are really targeting our population, and I say our population meaning students with visual impairments, anybody with a disability, because as we know, students with disabilities are historically underemployed. And if they have meaningful training and they also have access to that meaningful training, that means that they will be able to be contributing members to their community, which is a win for everybody. So Amy is going to share this video. What does the new law change?
In summer 2018, Congress passed and President Trump signed a new federal career and technical education law to ensure career and technical education programs, or CTE programs, meet the demands of the 21st century economy. In this video, we'll tell you what's new in the new law. The Strengthening Career and Technical Education for the 21st Century Act reauthorizes and updates the Carl D. Perkins Career and Technical Education Act of 2006. The new law, which we'll call Perkins 5, includes several changes and additions relevant for educators, colleges, employers, community-based organizations, and others who serve historically underserved students in middle and high schools and in college. So what's in the new law? I'm glad you asked. Let's talk about some of the differences between the new law and the old law. First, the new law gives greater flexibility to states and aligns several provisions, definitions, and reporting requirements with the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, and where appropriate, the Every Student Succeeds Act and the Higher Education Act. These changes will allow states to bring together their funding, their programs, and their reporting requirements across several federal programs, which reduces the burden on states. Second, the new law only requires certain students, called CTE concentrators, to be included in the accountability system. For middle and high school students, a CTE concentrator is a student who has completed at least 2 courses in a single CTE program or program of study. If a student only completes 1 CTE course, or if a student completes 3 CTE courses in 3 different programs of study, he or she will not be included in the accountability system and will not be factored into decisions about performance and improvement. Third, the new law calls for greater collaboration among middle schools, high schools, colleges, and employers to provide an integrated college and career preparatory experience for students. Perkins 5 requires states to describe in their state plans how they will support meaningful and effective collaboration among these key entities that serve students along an education continuum. The end goal is that systems and stakeholders are working together to support students across an education pipeline tied to a program of study that leads to high-skill, high-wage careers. Finally, there are several new definitions in Perkins 5 intended to provide specificity in areas the old law did not. There are definitions for CTE concentrator, CTE participant, qualified intermediary, professional development, program of study, work-based learning, and others. Overall, we at the Alliance for Excellent Education are big supporters of the new law. By emphasizing quality and equity, the new law provides state and district leaders with the tools to ensure students graduate from high school ready for college and a career. It also demonstrates the nation's commitment to elevating the quality of local CTE programs and addressing the performance of individual groups of students. For more information about the nation's updated CTE law, visit www.allfored.org/Perkins. Thanks for watching.
Okay. So that was a very good, concise explanation of what does the new law change. Obviously, it's a continuum, and to continue the bridge of students from post K through 12 to going into the post-secondary world of CTE, if that is the choice, onto college. But there's also other ways to be involved in CTE before you graduate high school. So what are those? Who is CTE for? CTE education can begin as early as middle school. Yes, there are actually CTE courses that are being offered in middle school. Obviously, most middle school students will not be completers by the time they're done with middle school, but they could start some of the coursework. Generally, most students, though, start that in their school-aged years during junior and senior year for CTE programs. They may come in as a dual enrolled student where they attend high school at their neighborhood high school or the one that they enrolled in, and then come in the afternoon or in the morning, depending on their course of study, to go ahead and work on those CTE skills. So you could potentially have a high school student who is graduating with their regular diploma with all of the core curriculum skills that are required for their state, and then have a CTE certificate as well as their high school diploma, in addition to possibly a certification in the industry that they sat for. So they could potentially have 3 different certifications or diplomas that would make them just a little bit more marketable and also a little more knowledgeable about the different things that they may be interested in their career field. Post-secondary students are the ones that we traditionally think of that can attend CTE programs. Those are students that have completed K through 12 programming and are joining us at any stage of their life. They could be just recently graduated, they could be career changers, they could be people in their career that just want to advance their skills. There's a whole variety of people that come into CTE programs depending on their specific need. CTE and students who are visually impaired. So I'm sure you're probably going to know the answer to this question given the format of where I'm presenting. Is CTE even possible for students with significant visual impairments? In short, yes, it is. And I'm so excited for you to join me and meet some of these students that are visually impaired, that fulfilled all of their career choices through CTE programming. So yes, absolutely, our students with visual impairments are definitely possible CTE students. CTE students who are visually impaired. Well, as it's been said before in previous slides, CTE really lends itself to our students with visual impairments. The programs in career technical education all have hands-on components, down to being a network student where you have to take apart the computer and understand where is the motherboard, where do you put the RAMs, how do you put that computer back together, to the culinary, where you learn different knife cuts, where you learn about measurements with an actual weighted scale, using an oven. All of these programs are hands-on, which really, really, really is what we're always trying to do with our students so they have concrete experiences with these different programs. And that is, to me, one of the beauties of CTE and students with visual impairments. It's exactly what our goal is as teachers for the visually impaired. We're always trying to provide those meaningful experiences and definitely working within that industry with people that are part of that industry, because those are the instructors, they're industry people. Our students are really getting a meaningful education. And typically they wouldn't have that opportunity. They usually sit through a math class, we fumble around trying to make it accessible, or a science class and try to find a 3D model. In this instance, they're actually dealing with the tools, with the equipment, with the things that are part of that field. So absolutely, CTE education is for students with visual impairments. So you're probably wondering what kind of ECC skills are needed for CTE. Well, in short, all of them, because we did identify those 9 areas that we said would make our students successful. But some of the ones that I've selected that I've found to be kind of game changers were students that had a very strong grasp on their reading mediums. Okay, so you have to really have your student understand what kind of reading medium am I going to need to use in this situation? Is it going to be refreshable braille, or do I need to use auditory medium? It depends totally on the program and the student's learning style. Without a doubt, obviously, assistive technology skills, game changer here. Definitely need to have that because you need to have the flexibility to use the technology that is part of that career and the assistive technology to maybe make that other technology accessible. So you really need to have all of those tools in your student's tool belt to kind of know when to pull this out and when is this the appropriate time to use it, or to be able to switch and be flexible and adaptive and choose another type of assistive technology if necessary. Self-determination. It's something that we're always working on with our students. Our students need to be able to be problem solvers. They need to be creative. They need to be able to let an instructor know that they can't access something. They also need to be able to figure out, how can I access this? Let me try this. Or that didn't work the last time, but you know what did work was this. So really understanding what it is they want to do, how they're going to do it, how they're going to ask for it, are all skills that we need to work on. It can be daunting for a student who's maybe in high school, a 16-year-old, to go and ask an adult to do something because they need that accommodation, but it really is preparing them for that future job where they're going to have to ask their employer for certain accommodations. And as an adult student, it's up to them to disclose their disability. So this will be all preparation leading up to them going off on their own. Another one, I know all my O&M folks, orientation and mobility. Of course, if you cannot get to work, get to class, get to school, or figure out how to route plan, you're not going to be able to be employed. So these are the type of skills you're definitely going to want to work on. Accessing public transportation if it's in your area, rideshare, cane skills, all of the above. You want to be able to have those core concrete concepts down before you're going off to work, and then you're just stressed out about this new job and are not, a proficient traveler. So definitely working on O&M throughout is very important. And of course, how could we talk about career technical education without talking about career skills? These are skills that are invaluable for our students. The soft skills that a lot of students may lack. How do you address an employer? How do you address an instructor? How do you send an email that's for a different audience type? How do you correspond back in email? These are all things that our students definitely need to work on, and they need to explore the different careers. And what better way than actually getting their hands into that potential field? So some examples of ECC in CTE are reading mediums. I've had students use Bookshare and Learning Ally for auditory materials. Of course, if you have an account, you could select the kind of format, whether you want it to be a BRF file, or if you want it to be an e-publication. These are all different things that the student would have to decide what they're most comfortable with. Print materials, students could use digital documents, and they can access their textbooks online and manipulate that through their computer, or if they need to use some screen enlarging technology, that could also be an option for them as well. Assistive tech, AT, is the game changer for our students, as I mentioned in the previous slide. I don't think I could hammer enough on this. It is so important. There's so many different technologies that students will be learning to access in their CTE program and in their industry certification if that's applicable. So they really need to understand how their technology works, when they should be using it, and how that would best assist them to be the most efficient and also be able to complete the job in a timely manner. So all of this should be part of the components in the intended career path. Self-determination. Oftentimes I have several students sadly come to me asking for a 504 because once we get to the post-secondary side, they no longer have an IEP, they have a 504 ADA accommodations plan, and the student has to disclose the disability. Typically, I don't have a problem with students that have no vision or very limited vision. They're very forthcoming about their disability. I have students with low vision or students with other disabilities that do not come to me to disclose a disability and think that they're going to be able to work it out, or it's just going to be a continuation of high school, which it is not. So sadly, they don't get the accommodations they need and are not as successful. And this is also something that they need to discuss with their instructor to explain their disability, what kind of things work for them, and how their disability might impact them. So these are the things that we really need to start working on with our students as early as possible. Just having an elementary school student go up to the teacher and just say, I can't see this worksheet. Is it possible that I could possibly sit closer to the board? Little things, small steps, just to break down that nervousness, because if it's practiced enough within their daily schedule, it's going to become a habit. Orientation mobility. Early experiences are terrific. Planning routes and trips with your student, that's a great way for you to really get those good cane skills and techniques in. Have them plan a route. Even if you're not able to take it, they could plan the route, because there's a lot of work that goes into that. And it's a skill set that needs to be addressed early on, not the day of the student wanting to go to the job training or the first day of class. These are all things that we want to do in advance. Also, have them access paratransit, fill out the application beforehand with them. Maybe ride share, have the app loaded, teach them how to access that app. These are all very, very beneficial experiences to students that are planning to go into CTE and even post-secondary, period. It's just part of them evolving into sufficient and independent adults. So examples of ECC and CTE, career skills are essential. What does employment look like in the intended program of study? Is there visual acuity that I need to have? Do I have to operate a large 18-wheeler? Is that something that my visual impairment will allow me to do? Perhaps that's not this field that I will be able to go into. What accommodations will I need for my career? Will I need dual monitors? Will I need a refreshable braille display? Will I need an extended keyboard? These are all things that the student can work out while they're in the CTE program and work out the kinks. And then the next thing is really looking into your visual impairment and also your skill set. If you're not a strong math student, is that engineering field or that accounting CTE program the correct one for you? Because you're going to set yourself up for a position or a job that you may not be happy in. So because somebody's told you that accountants make a lot of money or engineers make a lot of money, that might not be the best avenue for you. So really looking into your visual impairment and even your own personal likes and dislikes is a very, very essential component of deciding if a CTE program is for you. So just to wrap it up, today we talked about career technical education, the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, career technical education for the 21st century, ECC, and CTE. And I appreciate you for putting up with my spotty Wi-Fi connection. I look forward to seeing you without any interruptions on part 2 of this CTE series. You'll have a chance to meet with 2 different students with visual impairments and hear about their experience with career technical education. And I thank you so much for your time and patience. And I guess I'll open it up to questions.
That is great. Thank you. This was a great foundation that you have laid for us today, Eddie. And while you were thinking of some questions, there are some questions that have populated throughout that we can go into. And before I delve into that, I want to be able to share that a little bit of a segue. So you had mentioned about those career skills. You talked about what some of those essential ECC skills are. Well, we know all of them are needed, but what are really most essential that remained at the top of your head? I like that you had addressed those and what it needs to be successful. And you talked about career readiness. So I just want to give a public service announcement, if you will, that we are in the middle of an engaging webinar series called The Road Ahead Career Awareness. And every single month since March, we have been dealing with another age group. And this coming Friday, we tackle career readiness for middle school students. When you receive a follow-up email to participating in today's webinar, you will actually have a link that if you have not registered for that and you're interested in that career readiness for middle school students, we would love to have you join us. Our previous webinars are also on our YouTube playlist. We record everything and post them there. So in getting to some of those questions, here is a question for you, Eddie. In your experience, is there flexibility with CTE completion time to allow for students that have disability needs?
Okay, so in terms of completion time, we can't, just the same as you would in K through 12, the student would have to be able to complete the program within the confines of the hours set for that individual program, because if we go over hours, then that could cause an audit exemption. So they will have accommodations of extra time, and if they needed assistive technology, that would also be provided in some instances. But to extend the length of the program is not something that is done, because that would be changing the framework. I didn't get into the specifics, but there's occupational completion points. So different sections, if you will, different mini courses within one CTE program. So you need to, each occupational completion section may have a different amount of hours. So if you stay too long in one, you're going to extend the program by even longer, and then you're actually modifying the curriculum versus accommodating the curriculum, because we want them to complete it in a timely manner, so that way they could be a competitive employee with other employees that are not disabled.
Great. So there is a question about CTE programs in all states. Are they offered? How much do they typically cost, and what is the funding available? So I want to put for you, all of you attendees, into the chat window right now. Here is a link that I found. It's called CTE in Your State. You can click on it and it can take you to the state. What it does do also is it gives you a contact name that you can also get in touch with to ask those valuable questions that we might not be able to address today, such as funding and what types of programs are available. But that does help at least to point you in a direction. So feel free to grab that web link, CTE in Your State. So a few other questions, since we still have the opportunity. Do you ever see students come in to CTE programs after a four-year college?
Yes, yes, I do. We have several students that come in, and they may have gone the route of a program that they thought they were going to like, and they get out there and either the market for that industry is just not there, or they absolutely are not happy. And they'll see some of our programs and they are very attracted to it, because as it was mentioned in the first video, most of them are career in a year. They're about a year long for most programs. So they like the quickness they can get that certification in. And then we also have career placement that we don't guarantee career placement for students, but we do have that assistance. So they can be directly in that industry if they want to. Some students, actually, especially in the industrial side, have jobs before they even finish the program. The instructors are still in the field, they're connected, and they're placing students that are showing great potential right into the job. So sometimes people are just, that history degree just didn't get them what they were looking for. So they decided they're gonna come back and they wanna open a food truck. So they take our plant-based and vegetarian class. So yes, absolutely, I see people do that, or they take classes that complement their four-year degree with a CTE program.
And how about individuals? Do they need a high school diploma in order to engage in career technical education?
It depends on the field, on the program of study. The way that I remember it, that somebody taught me, any of the ones that deal with people, if you think law enforcement, EMT, firefighting, early childhood education, cosmetology, any of the ones that deal directly with people, you would need a high school diploma. Also, we have practical nursing. You would need a high school diploma, a regular high school diploma. Otherwise, you can come in without a high school diploma and complete, but you would need to meet basic skills even through the test of adult basic education. Or if you are able to take an industry certification exam in your chosen career path, that could waive your basic skills. So you do not necessarily have to be a high school graduate.
And do you are aware of if even if a student is homeschooled that might be able to engage in some career technical education? Do you have any awareness of that?
Yes, we do have several students that are homeschooled. If they went through a private homeschool type of opportunity or a co-op, or if their family's choosing to use their own curriculum, they're absolutely welcome to come, but they would also be testing the basic skills test. And that would be part of the requirement to graduate, not to enter.
Okay. Well, I know that we had mentioned that today was all about laying a foundation and making sure that we clearly understood how to define career technical education. We are able to describe it. We know about the career clusters. And really, we get into some more fun next week where we get to put our eyes and ears on hearing and listening to students that have visual impairments that have actually completed a program. And so I wondered, Eddie, would you give just a little sneak peek, maybe just share a little soundbite, if you will, about students that we'll meet that will entice us to come back in a week?
Yes, so I picked two very different students. The first one is a young woman that went through the technical high school. And while she was there, she earned her CTE certificate in networking and cybersecurity and sat for industry exams. So her whole path was through CTE during a high school years. And then she went on to go to four-year university. And I think that also her experience in CTE changed what her major was. And she'll probably speak on that a little bit more. And the second one is a student that has a visual impairment. He's low vision, and he came into CTE after post-graduation. He has some additional disabilities on top of his visual impairment, some physical limitations that he was able to work with in his CTE program. So we have one student that the young woman is, for the most part, functionally blind, and the other one is a low vision student, and they both picked different fields of study, and they came in at different times in their educational career.
That's great. We anticipate that. And what I want to share with you too before we close, in the follow-up email to this webinar, we're going to include a link that you might have questions, some burning questions that you would like an opportunity to be able to ask our students next week that we meet, or I should say young adults that will be coming in, that will be able to share with us firsthand experiences of being a student that is identified with a disability and completed successfully in something that is career technical education. I want to give you that opportunity that if you have a burning question that you would love to ask, that you can submit that question to a link. Again, that will be inside the follow-up email that you will be receiving.